Alright, skill 10, here are my values I chose. And so what I first did is I drew out my triangles. So I have my 45-degree angle, and I have right here is my 12, my magnitude of 12. And so what I did is I had to find these two legs so I could find the vector of this triangle. And so to find the legs, I just took cosine of 45 and I did the adjacent over 12, and x ended up equal 8.49. So here's my vector for my first triangle. So for this one right here, I have my 135 angle, which has a reference angle of 45. So I plugged in 45 here, and then 15 for my hypotenuse, and I solved for the sides, the legs, using the same thing. Cosine of 45 is equal to x over 15. X ends up being 10.61, 10.61, except this is going to be negative 10.61 because 135 is in the second quadrant, so we're going over to the left of the y-axis. So right here for part A, you have to add them together. So by adding them, you just add this value to this value, you get this, you add this value to this value, and you get this. And then for finding the magnitude of that and the angle, the direction angle, you make the vectors into these two legs. You solve for the hypotenuse using Pythag, you get 19.22 as the magnitude. And then you solve for this angle measurement, and I just use a trig function. I use tangent, and I did the 19.1 over the adjacent over the opposite, or the opposite over the adjacent, and I got my angle of negative 83.67. For B, I had to subtract them, so you just take this value, subtract it from this, you get this. Take this value, subtract it from this, you get this. And then I turn that into a right triangle. I use the vectors as the legs, use Pythag to find the hypotenuse, and then I use my tangent function to find this angle of negative 6.33. That's the direction angle. And then for C, you multiply them together. By multiplying them, you take this, multiply it by this, you get negative 90.0789, and then you take this value, multiply it by this, you got negative 90 here, you get positive 90 here, which ends up equaling 0, which means they're perpendicular, which means they're orthoangular angles. And that's skill 10.